Well, thank you, folks. Next, we have a panel. So we'll have four folks. We'll have two folks from the business improvement areas, one from Malton, one from Port Credit, and then we have two folks from the boards of trades and the boards of trades from both Mississauga and Brampton. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through all four presenters, and then we will have time for questions at the end. So our first presenter is Natalie Hart, and Natalie is from the Malton Business Improvement Area. So she's the general manager of the Malton BIA. Natalie's been with the Malton BIA since the spring of 2019 and is known for being involved in charity events across the city, from the Royal Punjabi Golf Tournament to Armage House of the Coldest Nights of the Year and the Streetsville Christmas Parade. So welcome, Natalie. Over to you.
Thank you so much for having me. So Malton, as our motto shows, is from here to anywhere. And that is because when it comes to transit, I think we are blessed with more opportunities than any other BIA. Of course, many of you are familiar with the GO train station in Malton. We also have a full service transit hub at one of our members, Westwood Square, which services Zoom, MyWay, and the TTC through that hub. And then, of course, many of you probably have seen that little airport that happens to be, within the Malton area. So that's certainly something that's there. But of course, we're also a logistical hub in terms of other train networks, and certainly trucking is a large industry throughout our area. So transit, higher order transit, and local level transit is something we are very keen on. We also feel that transit is an opportunity for shoppers to stop. When you're in your car, it's easy to continue going. With transit and the opportunities to use the 2-hour fare popping in and out mean that shoppers and employees, come to an area and stay in an area at least for a little bit of time. If we can go to the next slide. So I just wanted, as I'm the first BIA to go, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about what a BIA is for some of the people who may not be familiar with what we are. So it stands for Business Improvement Association, and it has a predefined geography. So there is a set boundary to each BIA, which of course can change and morph over time, but they do have a very specific geography that their membership is in. Some BIAs will have an offering for outside area businesses to join as well, but the predominant focus of their membership will be on a very specific geography that is laid out and is a part and parcel of their creation and or changes over time. Okay. We focus on projects that create, a sense of place, reasons to visit, and enhancing awareness of our area and the opportunities and why they're there. And of course, one of our other roles, particularly over the last few years, has been around advocacy and supports for small business, information sharing via social media, newsletters. In our particular case, of course, that includes a lot of advocacy around multilingual supports, as we are home to a very diverse small business population. So making sure that our members can access information in a variety of languages, as well, of course, as our consumers in a variety of languages, is something that's near and dear to our hearts. I talked earlier about our motto and how important that is, but definitely we're very keen to be seeing LRT and other types of higher order transits beginning to make more connections throughout all of Mississauga and Brampton, because we see that as being a very strong advantage. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about where we are and what the impact can be around local transit. And did you know that the Westwood Mall was even in a BIA? It's pretty unusual to have an actual mall within it. And we're also the largest South Asian mall in all of Ontario. So it has some pretty unique features, including a portion of the mall that is sold as condo units. So people can be owner occupiers within that space as well, which is quite unusual. I talked a little bit about it being a transit hub, but I just want to reiterate how important that hub is to the community and to employers looking for what they're trying to bring into the community, because it widens the net of where they can be looking for employees, which is a critical aspect of what people are looking for at this particular moment, and of course as shoppers. We also, of course, have a GO train, which creates access as well to the International Center, our convention center that is within our area, and local businesses. So there's quite a few good reasons why higher order transit has been helpful to Milton in achieving the thriving business community that we currently enjoy. Next slide, please. So I wanted to talk a little bit around how, when we're talking about advocacy, what ways are there to enhance your profile locally and make sure you're being known, in addition to looking at procurement aspects. Other ways to make sure you're being found by businesses that are looking for you. And one that is important is MississaugaMade.ca. It's an interactive listing because it allows you to segment both by location and industry. So this Mississauga Made site is not just for, what you would think of as BIA type businesses, the bricks and mortar restaurants and services. This goes well beyond that, and it has both industrial and commercial segments that are listed within there for people to list when they're looking for how they can be shopping local and what they can be doing. Recently relaunched again is the City of Mississauga's My Main Street team for connections, and they'll do assessments on ways to improve your small business, particularly focused on your digital performance and how that could be better enhanced, and what you can do around that marketing. And for those who are in a tourism related industry, and of course, you're near the airport and near all the corresponding hotels, tourism is a large part of it. You'd also want to take a look at visitmississauga.ca to see how you can have your business included in their cross marketing purposes and their cross promotions, because I think that's an important part of how we can all begin to be working together and working particularly locally within the Mississauga community. And next slide, Victoria. Sorry, that's it for me. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of your time, and I look forward to any questions you may have at the end.
All right. So again, as Natalie just pointed out, make sure that you jot down some questions so that you can get back to her at the end. Our next speaker is John Pappas from the Port Credit Business Improvement Association. John's been an owner and operator of the Crooked Q for 25 years, and he's the chair of the Port Credit Business Improvement Association. He sits also on the board of directors for Tourism Mississauga and the Port Credit Community Foundation. He has an MBA from the Rotman School of Business at the University of Toronto. So let's welcome John. Over to you, John. There we go.
Took me a minute to get there.
No problem.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here to speak a little bit about Port Credit, a place I've done business here for 25 years, and I'm also the chair of the Port Credit BIA. And I hope most of the Mississauga's waterfront. And I think one of the things that really makes Port Credit go is our restaurants and patios. And I really believe that in the last 10 years since we've had street side patios, it's really increased business and tourism in the area. We've always been known for really great retail stores, mom and pop shops, and as well as various services such as salons and all sorts of personal care services. But mainly you're talking about a small business community it's a very popular place. Port Credit has definitely got the vibe. Next slide, please. The other thing that makes Port Credit really go is we have beautiful parks and we have a waterfront trail. So I think between those two things, having a beautiful Main Street village with patios and that, having beautiful parks and paths really brings people to Port Credit. How we see the LRT project helping Port Credit. I think it's a great opportunity to bring labor into our neighborhood, as that's a really big issue for small businesses these days. It's a great opportunity to increase tourism and of course, increasing accessibility to our area is always top of mind for us. And those where we see the big wins of this project for us. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you, John. That's wonderful. So again, get some questions for John, especially perhaps what the Crooked Q is. So next we have Trevor McPherson from the Mississauga Board of Trade. So Trevor has assumed the role of president and CEO of the Mississauga Board of Trade in August of 2021. Prior to joining the Mississauga Board of Trade, Trevor was with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce for 15 years, and most recently is serving as Vice President of Member Services. So Trevor, over to you.
Thank you so much, John, and thanks for the opportunity to be with everyone today to talk a little bit about the Mississauga Board of Trade. And I think it's very, very appropriate that we have this panel together with our BIAs as we do collaborate quite frequently and have a lot of shared interest in supporting our small business community. And this was demonstrated through our partnership through the Shop Local campaign that we delivered as part of a national effort to really promote and support small businesses. So I'll just start by telling everyone a little bit about the Mississauga Board of Trade and just about chambers of commerce and boards of trade in general. There's sometimes a misconception that chambers of commerce and boards of trade are part of government, and they're not. We are an independent association of businesses at the local level. We are part of a provincial network through the Ontario Chamber of Commerce and a national network through the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. And our prime role really is to represent the interests of the business community through advocacy, but also through other supports and practical programs to help both on the business development side and to address some of the broader business and economic issues that we're all facing. And we know there's no lack of those these days. So just a little bit of a boilerplate for you. MBOT, as we are commonly referred to, was established in 1961. It's played an important role in serving and representing the interests of businesses of all sizes, quite frankly, in our community. Mississauga is Canada's 6th largest city. I think we may have dropped to 7th, but we'll be right back there. And that's, I think, much a pandemic-related issue with out-migration and not as much immigration coming in. With a population of over 700,000 residents and over 50,000 businesses, employing just over 440,000 people. And this includes 60 Fortune 500 Canadian headquarters. And Mississauga is where successful companies choose to do business. Mississauga's large, diverse, and active membership has made us one of the most vibrant business associations in Canada. Together with our chamber partners, the Brampton Board of Trade, we forge ahead to really represent your interests. As a voice of business, we advocate certainly on policy issues that impact local business at all levels of government, and we're influential in helping to shape those policy decisions. And elected officials come to us for ideas through roundtables, through other engagement opportunities that we have with them, and we certainly appreciate all of those opportunities. Our many exclusive benefits and discount programs for members are designed to give you value and save you money and save you time. In today's ever complex and changing economic environment, being a part of an organization that's committed to meeting your needs and serving as a key resource to your business really does give you that competitive advantage. And it's not just us at MBOT, it's about being a part of a collective. And that's really the secret sauce, I would say. The secret sauce I often refer to for chambers of commerce and boards of trade is really in our convening power. And oftentimes it's said that there are a couple of reasons that someone engages or joins a chamber of commerce or board of trade. One is to get something from the chamber of commerce or board of trade, whether that be resources, information. Certainly through the pandemic, when everyone was in March 2020 figuring out, hey, what's going on? How do I access these government programs? What do they mean? Do I qualify, etc.? We were right there on the front lines trying to make it easier and advocating with government when those support programs were either insufficient or flawed or what have you. And that was our role. And we do that in a respectful way, in a constructive way. I'd like to think that chambers of commerce and boards of trade, we're not all about jumping up and screaming and, with our hair on fire saying, hey, there's a problem. We're about really that constructive dialogue and evidence-based policy. And that's really our sweet spot. So we welcome you to learn more about MBOT and how you can participate and become engaged as a member. Quite simply, our vision is to be the preeminent voice for business in Mississauga, and with a mission to connect, to champion, and to advance our business. Next slide, please. So I talked a little bit about policy and advocacy, and this is really the bread and butter for any Board of Trade or Chambers of Commerce, or at least should be. So as I mentioned, we are affiliated with both the Canadian and Ontario Chambers of Commerce on national and provincial issues, whether that be labor, which is huge, obviously, right now, whether that be how infrastructure is developed, whether that be energy pricing, and any issue that is affecting our business competitiveness. We're also the face of business for business with our local officials. That includes the mayor, members of Mississauga Council, and certainly of regional council as well. And just last night, we held our annual event, which hasn't been able to be annual the last couple of years, with the leadership, the bureaucracy at the city and at the region, through our dinner with commissioners and the CAOs of both Mississauga and the region of Peel. And that's just one example of how we provide some of those engagement opportunities. And then finally, we together with our partners, and again, I'll mention Brampton Board of Trade as well, in developing and deliberating on policy positions that are put forward to the Ontario and Canadian chambers for adoption, either at the provincial level, which means when they are adopted at the annual AGM of either the Ontario Chamber or the Canadian Chamber, that means they become policy at the provincial level, and the entire chamber network is supporting those resolutions, those policy positions, and it really provides a lot more heft when it comes to some of those issues that are around those cabinet tables. And to tell you the truth, when a cabinet minister is sitting with their colleagues around the table and they're saying something that they've heard from the Mississauga Board of Trade or the Oakville Chamber of Commerce or what have you, and their colleague at the table says, you know what, I'm hearing the exact same thing. That's a very powerful message to government, and really helps us push a case, as opposed to being an independent company and going with your GR team to government and saying, hey, look, we think you should do X, Y, or Z. The government's always looking for more in terms of, well, who else is feeling this way, and that's where we really come into play. And so next slide, please. So we have a number of policy committees, and you'll see them here, whether it be environment and sustainability, and certainly with climate change, this is top of mind for everyone right now. Health and wellness, human resource issues, big thing right now, and we're looking at delivering a talent summit this fall. Stay tuned for more on that. International trade, obviously our region, with Pearson Airport, with all of the transportation, logistics, warehousing, and manufacturing capacity, and so many headquarters of those Fortune 500 firms, we're a big trading hub, and we feel that together with the diversity of our population, I think there's more room to grow in that regard, and we look forward to being a part of that. Policy and Government Affairs is our straight up policy committee, and that would be the committee that, if a resolution is coming before council, or if legislation is being tabled at the provincial or federal level, that's where this committee kind of considers, what would our position be, and we consult with our members, and we either take a position or we decide, this isn't something that we need to weigh in on. We have also a professional development committee that puts together a number of, lately it's been a number of webinars, but also in-person opportunities to really help both large and small organizations develop that capacity among their teams. And then we have our ambassadors, and these are our very committed members that donate their time with us and help promote the cause. Next slide, please. And finally, I'd like to speak a little bit about what we call MERGE. And this is the Mississauga Economic Resiliency Group, started as the Mississauga Economic Recovery Group back in 2000 as a response to COVID. And really, it's a assembly of some of the top CEOs of our top employers across sectors. We have 7 or 8 different sector groups, from life sciences to manufacturing to education with UTM, Sheridan, and our private colleges such as Trios and Metalworks Institute being involved, all with a common goal to collaborate together and work in tandem with our policy groups at MBOT to advance more. It's more of an economic leadership initiative that we have, and we have about 57 CEOs of some of the largest employers in Mississauga as part of this, and it's evolving now from simply a response group to what is happening with COVID to a more sustained group it's really providing value to these CEOs that are able to share with each other some of those challenges and hopefully some best practices that they're employing within their organizations on some of the big issues that they're facing right now. And I believe that's the end of my presentation. It was just a short piece there, and look forward to hearing from my colleague from Brampton. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Trevor. Wonderful. And again, get some questions ready, folks, for the panel at the end. So our last presenter in this panel is Kevin Draper, who is from the Brampton Board of Trade, and he is the Trades Manager of Government Relationships. Over the past decade, Kevin has worked in the public and private and nonprofit sectors. Today, he leads the Board of Trade's advocacy effort, including articulating the public policy concerns of the member companies and representing them at all levels of government. Additionally, he serves as one of the organization's leads in working with regional, provincial, and national coalitions, including the Innovation Corridor Business Council and the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, excuse me, and the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. So, Kevin, over to you.
Well, thank you, John, for that introduction and for the work that you and the entire Mobilinks team are doing, not only on today's engagement, but on this project as a whole, which we know is so important for our cities and our region. As was mentioned, I'm Kevin Draper, the Manager of Government Relations with the Brampton Board of Trade. I'm very pleased to be with you all this morning to give an overview of the role of chambers of commerce and boards of trade more broadly, the specific work that we do here at the Brampton Board of Trade, and of course to tie that together to the Hurontario LRT project that we're all here to learn about today. If there's one thing that I keep coming back to when I look for an overarching theme to what we do, it's that we get better results faster when we work together. And that's true on this project in particular, and it's also true more generally. We know that over the lifetime of the LRT project, businesses are going to face challenges over and above the construction of the actual physical track infrastructure. Here in Brampton, there will be extensive work done on water mains and other underground utilities that will pose operational challenges to businesses, challenges around the visibility of their entrances and other things like that. So just wanted to stress that over and above all, we're here to help you navigate those kinds of challenges as they emerge. And we're very pleased that partners like Mobilinks have stepped up to lead on business engagement and be our partners in that. I could just have my next slide, please. Thank you. And I just want to put a finer point on the comment that I made about how we succeed better together. If you look at this image, the man in the white shirt is Eliud Kipchoge, the fastest marathoner in the world. But when you look at the the image at first, your eyes may be more so drawn to the many other men dressed in black who are around him. They're his pacers. They help him keep his time, his stamina, and provide other supports like that. And I think that as far as an image goes, that's a really great metaphor for the services that chambers of commerce and boards of trade provide. And as we continue to navigate what I guess you might still term these COVID times, it's still true that businesses require our core services. And I think Trevor did a good job of outlining what those are. But just to give our perspective, that would include things like our capacity to promote businesses, the protection that we offer when sometimes well-intended public policy decisions may have unintended consequences, certainly our advocacy capacity to assist in proactively shaping positive policy outcomes, the connections that we offer, the professional development that we can facilitate, the recognition of business excellence that is a hallmark of our programming here in Brampton, but I know is also done in Mississauga and by our sister chambers and boards all across the province. It was certainly true during the best of times that those core services were needed and wanted by businesses. But we've increasingly found that in challenging times, which I think the past couple of years would most certainly count as, not only are those core functions of the Board of Trade indispensable, but they're actually even more so in greater demand than they were ever before, even prior to the challenges of the past couple of years. So the collective challenge that we have as a Board of Trade, and I suspect this is work that Trevor and his team, our friends and neighbors to the south at MBOT also do, is articulating our value and scaling our message to as many businesses as possible. And as we go about that work here in a Brampton specific context, we're doing so as part of a digital transformation that finds new ways to make our offerings relevant and impactful in a world that has changed quite a bit and continues to change by the day. If I could just have my next slide, please. Thank you. And just to talk briefly about the Hurontario LRT project in particular, I mentioned off the top, it really is an unprecedented opportunity for our city and our region. From a Brampton point of view, it's unfortunate that the project stops at Steeles, the scope of work that Mobilinks is doing. Many of you familiar with the history of the project will be aware that funding was at one time available to take it all the way to downtown Brampton to the Brampton GO station. But because of the decision of a prior term of City Council, that did not actually materialize. And I just want to set a little bit of context with respect to downtown Brampton to hopefully illustrate the way in which higher order transit is really the missing piece of the puzzle that has the potential to kind of tie everything together. There's a lot happening in the downtown now, and even more coming online in the next few years. I could start with, as one example, Ryerson University, I guess I should now say the Toronto Metropolitan School of Medicine, or excuse me, the Toronto Metropolitan University School of Medicine was recently announced by the provincial government, the first new medical school in Ontario in over 100 years. It will be located in downtown Brampton. We're also very optimistic that soon the Centre for Innovation will be constructed in our downtown. That will be sort of the linchpin of the entire downtown innovation district. And we're hopeful it will be the catalyst that serves to persuade the University of Guelph Humber to relocate to Brampton as well. We also have Algoma University, who seem to expand their offerings on a yearly basis. Sometimes it seems like even weekly and monthly in their case, they grow. So all that to say, with those institutions on top of a wide range of private sector development on both the residential and commercial side, there really is a lot happening in the downtown, and we do need that higher order transit piece to kind of bring it all together and really make it click. But in that regard, we're fortunate that the Main Street extension of the Hurontario LRT is supported in the draft official plan of the city. So as a Board of Trade, one of our largest advocacy priorities is continuing to press City Council to support the Main Street extension. They have voted in support of the Main Street alignment many times. and they now have two options for them that we want to push them to make a decision on and move to procurement and eventually construction. And in that vein, hopefully we can all be back here with you sometime soon to engage on the community relations component of constructing the Main Street extension. If I could just have my next slide, please. So I just want to leave you with a bit of context around our membership offering. We do have 4 different membership levels. They're outlined on the slide to the right in some level of detail. They do offer you access to the benefits of a Board of Trade membership that I've outlined. They really do scale anywhere from a sole proprietor to a multinational brand would be appropriate. Really, the levels of membership that we have are differentiated by the amount of time and treasure that you have to invest in your local Board of Trade. I'll just go to my last slide and just to leave you all with the thought that we certainly are very keen to connect with our members who are on the call today, and also the individuals who may be what we call our future members, those who may be curious about the Board of Trade and eager to learn more and enjoy the benefit of some of the activities and supports that I've outlined today. So I'll leave it there, and thanks again for facilitating today's engagement, and I do look forward to the panel discussion.
Right, thank you, Kevin. And I heard such great words from all of you, words of advocacy, words of promotion, words of connection, and just wonderful things that as the business improvement associations and the Board of Trades, what a wonderful service that you guys provide to the whole community. And again, folks, if you could have some questions, you can raise your hand in the reaction button. You can type into the Q&A or into the chat. However, one of the things I was just wondering, and again, whoever wishes can speak to this, but I can only imagine that having this 22-kilometer line joining all of your areas together has just got to be such a wonderful opportunity for business in the Brampton, Mississauga, Malton, Port Credit area. Anybody want to speak to some of the real benefits you see of the Hurontario LRT? John, did you want to speak to that? You're on mute, John, unless you're chatting with someone else in the background.
Yeah, Port Credit has been transformed into a tourist area, and I certainly think there's going to be a lot of opportunity to bring people down to our and now we're a destination, and with labor challenges, I think that a lot of people, with the price of gas these days, a lot of people in the services jobs will have a better opportunity to access a wider range and area of places they can be employed. And I see those as the 2 biggest wins in a project like that. Just yeah, that would be it for me.
Excellent. Anybody else want to speak to that? We do have another question in the Q&A. Trevor?
Sure. I mean, yeah, a tremendous opportunity, and really, it's for us. It's about bringing talent to where they need to be. Certainly, the game is changing in terms of hybrid work, but there are still many jobs and roles that require you to be on site. And the other thing I'll mention too is in Mississauga, there's aggressive plan for growth, and it's happening right now in the city core. So this is critical. The city too is advocating for what is called the loop portion, the return of the loop in the city center area. And when we endorsed the LRT, initially it did include the loop, so we'd certainly be supportive of that. And really, it's it's about a growing city and its needs, and there's no 2 ways about it. We need other avenues for people and goods to, well, not goods in this case in the LRT, but transportation overall needs to be keeping up with the rapid pace of development.
Excellent. Yeah, that's wonderful. Kevin, I see you're off mute. Thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Happy to. I think John from Port Credit makes a good point about the placemaking sort of feature that the LRT offers, especially as it relates to areas that are kind of urban cores or city centers. The other piece that really jumps out at me is regional connectivity. Brampton is situated in Canada's Innovation Corridor, which is probably the densest cluster of industry in the country, spanning roughly Kitchener, Waterloo, east to Durham region. And a lot of the existing infrastructure that moves people across those places is oriented east-west, right? So the LRT, and particularly the connections that it will offer to the GO line, can really be game-changing in terms of moving people to those places of regional connectivity and strengthening those connections across that really dense cluster of industry that we think in the next few years or sooner could rival places like Silicon Valley in terms of global significance.
No, wonderful. Yeah. So again, three amazing things: tourism, employees getting to their places of work, being able to get employees to the right places to be able to serve businesses, regional connectivity, wonderful, wonderful things there. Natalie, did you have a thought at all? Or if not, we've got another question.
I think all of those points are very important, but it's also about creating those destinations and nodes. I mean, we talk about tourism, but it's also about how those stops are going to create a reason to get off and go into those areas, which may not have existed. I mentioned it in my preamble, but cars keep going. Transit gives people the opportunity to get on again, right? And I think that that's something that can't be overlooked, because you can get off for lunch and then get on again to continue on to your next, part of the journey, or even take it if you're that employee from, maybe the downtown core, go down to Port Credit for a lunch meeting and then come back up. So there are lots of opportunities there that are, I think really differentiators for how we can then start to market our areas around those opportunities that the stops will create.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Excellent. Okay, we do have a question. It says, someone is interested in hearing a little bit about the labor issues for small business mentioned by several panelists. So if you have a thought on that, who'd like to start us off on that question?
Well, I can chime in a little bit. It's a big issue. The game has changed. There's no overnight solution to this. We're going to be, as I mentioned, tackling this probably much of the year and continuing beyond that. But policy can help. Whether that be immigration policy, whether that be policies that enable recent graduates to stay here. I'm talking about international students to stay here and work. There are things that can be done there to increase capacity, but it's not isolated from the other issues that we're facing as well. And I'm thinking about housing, for example, and that is another contributing factor that's not making it any easier to attract and retain talent. So all I can say is it's a very, very complex issue. We've seen, recent examples, at the airport itself. And I know that, all of the partners that play a role at the airport, whether it be the government agencies, the CATSA and the CBSA, et cetera, and adding more people to their roster to help improve the situation. So we're trying to do everything we can on both a short and medium term in terms of process improvements, that we've been advocating for with regard to that particular issue. And I'm sure in other areas there can be some improvements, but quite frankly, it's a real challenge for us, and it's something that I think will be top of mind for government, because really this is about retaining the corporate investment and jobs that we have right now. Because the jurisdiction that gets this right the quickest will be the one that that wins those investments. So we're very concerned about it.
That's great. Thank you. John, did you have a thought? You're off mute.
Yeah. Touchy subject for me because I lost 55 out of 60.
Maybe John, if you could just turn your video off. You're a little choppy on your audio. If you turn your video off, that might give you some bandwidth.
Had a lot of issues. Declared an honest business, which I think was the worst policy decision ever. It's very challenging.
Yeah, unfortunately, John, your audio is quite choppy. So maybe Kevin, you've come off audio. Do you have a thought?
Sure. Yeah, just from in a Brampton context, I think.
John, I'm afraid.
Your staff again. Most people just left the industry.
Yeah, I'm afraid, unfortunately, John, we just can't hear you with your audio. I think there's a little bit of a lag there. So, Kevin, over to you.
Yeah, sure.
It's very, very challenging. So, and we're trying.
Excellent.
Great, thank you. I think one of the things that we talk about a lot in Brampton is that it's a lot easier to get to Brampton from other regions than it is to get from one part of Brampton to another part, depending on, the alignment of public transit and so on. So really, in terms of labor, in terms of filling employment gaps, a lot of the challenge can be mobility. That basic fact does really limit where people can hire from. It limits how long employees may stay in a role, how much turnover companies experience. So one of the potential spin-off benefits of the LRT that maybe doesn't get enough attention is that putting higher order transit on that very busy north-south artery would then free up quite a few public transit resources in terms of the actual buses, the drivers, and so on, that can be redeployed to other parts of the city to help alleviate some of those problems and increase mobility within the city. So, there are other arteries in Brampton down the road that we'd like to look at higher order transit on. Certainly bus rapid transit on Queen Street has a lot of potential, but just kind of more near term and related to this project, I think once you take those buses off of north-south, that might open some doors that could help facilitate easier access to employment lands for those people who are really struggling to recruit and retain people just because of the difficulty of getting around.
Excellent. Oh, that's great. Okay, folks, any other questions? You could raise your hand. Again, type into the Q&A or on the.
I just had something to add around that.
Sorry, Natalie, I apologize.
Yeah, just from a BIA perspective, I know that it was a little hard to hear some of John's. One aspect in regards to mobility is also when you're attracting employees, allowing for access to their childcare and daycare facilities as well. We're not actually talking about that, but many small businesses, personal care services, those sorts of industries are female dominated. Through the pandemic, we've certainly seen a lot of stresses on childcare issues, when schools are closed, other aspects, and mobility just adds a layer onto that. So when there isn't effective, frequent transit available to employees, they have to make different choices about where they work.
Yeah.
And so I think that is another thing. We talked about housing, but I think childcare is also another barrier to getting the most out of our workforce and getting the most employees looking at opportunities within our communities that we need to be addressing in conjunction with transit and in conjunction with housing from a retention point of view, but also an attraction point of view.
Yeah, yeah, great point, Natalie. You can see how interconnected all of these issues are. And, it's interesting. I have a university age son who finding transportation, being able to get to where there's work opportunities, it was a challenging summer for him. And he plays soccer in Hamilton, so we're involved. So it's quite a variety of transportation issues. But I think the interrelationship of all those different elements. So, well, folks, thank you so much. Appreciate that. And everybody, you've just given such wonderful insight. And so thank you for your time and your preparation. And we're just really grateful that you were able to be here. So again, thank you, Natalie and Kevin. I think John and Trevor have logged off at this point. So thank you for your time. We really appreciate having you.
All
All right.